So this is going to be a bit of a different type of video. I'm going to be talking about why I love post-it notes and just sketching in general. I think the value of sketching is very obvious to me, but I don't think that a lot of people do enough of it. And again, I want to apologize if the quality of the video isn't any good. I'm actually just using my phone, like hooked up to my OBS, so it's a little weird. I used to have like really fancy camera, but I've just become more and more lo-fi. I think just as I age, I'm just not interested in having huge, super epic professional setups. The most close professional setup I have is just that my laptop's like a gaming computer, and then I use like iPad Pro. But even my gaming computer is like 3 to 4 years old. My iPad Pro is first generation iPad Pro. It's like literally the very first iPad that was ever iPad Pro that was ever made. And so it's time to upgrade. I think in a year or two, I'm gonna save up some cash and just upgrade both my laptop and my iPad, start fresh, and then pass down my computer and iPad to my kids. Anyway, so I like to draw a lot, and usually whenever I do something in like I'm sketching, I'm not trying to do anything impressive. I'm trying to maybe like practice a certain skill, try to practice like what I know already, and see if I can kind of do it quickly and effectively. And using post-it notes, there's something about the fleeting. Let me think of a good word. There's something about the idea that it's not this high quality tool, right? Like it's not like this epic paper. It's not like this thing, this super awesome material. I use like a Sharpie and ballpoint pens to like it's just the same for the same rationale. Like my art supplies could all be bought at like Walmart or Target or whatever generic um supermarket or store that you regularly shop for to get diapers and toilet paper. You know what I mean? Um I love a lot of different art tools. Actually let me see if I can grab one that I actually like a lot. So there's like this kind of like calligraphy pens. Outside of like that, my preference for um, tools really is very limited. I'm a simple individual. I like to over-index on skill. And you guys have heard me talk about this a lot. And when I teach, I usually teach people to practice and draw. Whenever I do my mentorships, for those of you who are listening who know my mentorships, they can vouch that like that is almost the majority of what I do for my students. Is obviously I'll do paint overs and kind of walk through their specific artwork and what they could have done to improve it. But at the end of the day, I always try to get them to draw a shit ton, you know? And to me, like worrying about any individual tool is not the best strategy if you don't have like a lot of strong foundational skill. And so to me, like the post-it note, ballpoint pen, or just Sharpie pens, or any kind of like gel ink pens, whatever those are called. You know what I'm talking about? Like the ones that have like a little bit more smoothness to them. Um, Perfectly fine, because the skill that matters, or the thing that matters, is the skills. It's funny because whenever I would go to like something like a Denny's or like a diner, and they would give my kids crayons and like a piece of paper to draw on, I would like always take the crayons and then draw like a robot or a monster. It's really ironic if you draw like a monster with a kid's drawing tool. You know what I mean? And I I would do something pretty impressive. In fact, I like crayons. They feel very much like pastels, and pastels are really awesome for kind of like soft drawings. Um, and so like the creature designs could be rendered relatively well using just good old fashioned good old-fashioned crayons. And yeah, I think over-indexing on the skill is incredibly important. I've talked about this before in a different video, but I'll bring it up here within this context, which is like, I don't mind that I don't draw great all the time. In fact, if you guys go to my Instagram, there's a good amount of images that are well drawn and well executed, but then there's also like a large amount of images that are okay and that are, in my opinion, mediocre at best. But I don't get flustered by it, because the thing that matters to me the most, and again, the premise around like a post-it note, is, am I doing art? Am I making something creative consistently? I'm a person who teaches people you should be consistent with your art. I also follow this advice. I do this myself. This is why I give it. You know, and anyone who I know who does really great artwork tends to do this as well. And if there's ever a lull in my posting, like in the last couple of years, it's just because I've been working a lot. And currently, I'm still working a lot, but I'm wrapping a few different contract jobs, and it just happens to free up my time. I'm just like a little bit more free, not entirely, but what went from 8 to 9 hour days of just me working, is more around like 5 to 6 hours, and which is great. You know what I mean? It also allows me to open up my classes again, because at some point I was working so much that I couldn't even do my classes effectively. I had to keep moving my classes around. Luckily for me, my students were really thoughtful and understood the challenges of that. And I'm internally grateful for this. But yeah, just recently I'm like, okay, I think I can start bringing some stuff up. And I do have a few more opportunities that are coming up, but I'm beginning to kind of get in a place where I can just be chilling and not worry too much. My cost of living is the biggest factor of this. I have several kids, and I was living in a state at the time where, yeah, the cost of living was just tremendous. First, I lived in California. I don't know how I'll ever be able to go back, truthfully, unless I make like $500,000 salary, right? Like, for how big my family is, for the kind of lifestyle that we would want, which is just a regular sized 3 to 4 bedroom home, in a nice neighborhood. That's ultimately, yeah, I'm not looking for luxuries here. But then we moved to Colorado. It was mainly because my son, he was kind of regressing, and from what I saw, Colorado had some of the best programs for children with autism. So that was like a no-brainer for me. But then again, the cost of living was incredible. And so we've kind of changed circumstances, mainly for the cost of living. And so I have a little bit more time to do stuff, including making more YouTube videos. Spending 30 minutes to 40 minutes a day is no big deal, especially with this type of format. And I was like, how am I going to do traditional content? And I have like a smartphone. Smartphones cameras aren't garbage. Most of the value of what I provide on my YouTube is just my commentary. So shoot, let me just get like a really cheap setup for my traditional drawing. And it's funny because I'm using like one of those like tripods. Here, let me try to illustrate it real quick. Actually, I'll do it some other time. It's just like one of those like things where you prop up your phone. Yeah, because normally I would just draw it, but since I'm not in Photoshop and I can't just hide it later, and this is my only materials right now. Yeah, it's like when you prop up your iPod, your iPhone, or your smartphone, and can watch videos on. Like, you put on like a table. It's one of those. It's not like a big old you could actually put it in your pocket. And I propped it up with like a couple Rubik's cubes and like this little ramen toy that my kids gave me for my birthday. And that's my setup and my phone. And I just have my phone streaming to OBS right now. That's all I'm doing. But yeah, like now that I have more time and I can do more stuff, like I'm always trying to find a better way to kind of make it easier, low effort, so I can actually make sure I do it. If I had a larger setup, if I had a lot, like a big old situation, and if I set that standard, which I know a lot of my contemporaries have set those standards for their YouTube channels, um, which is it is what it is what kind of content they want to make. I'm not about that. I'm not trying to be a YouTuber. I do appreciate that a lot of what I say and do on YouTube and or whatever video content this might end up ending up on in the future, who knows. But the value that I bring is less about like this high production value. I'm getting a good amount of viewership and subscribers, maybe not at the pace of like somebody who has like a much more professional setup. But I realized, like, when I was like watching some of my favorite YouTubers online, a lot of them just like they have like some of the most basic setups. And I'm like, I'm still watching this person's content, and they're just ultimately just talking at me with a nice camera. And I was like, honestly, even if they didn't have a nice camera, I don't think I would care, because I'm like treating these more like a podcast than I am like I'm like drawing and listening. And it just made me realize I have a feeling a lot of people who are listening to this now probably feel the same way. And there's a good market for that, of people who will be out there that feel that, and this will be successful on its own. Maybe it won't be this high stakes Mr. Beast level of content. But there are a lot of commentators that, yeah, they just talk at the camera, and I think buying an expensive camera doesn't make sense to me anymore. Having an expensive setup, too much overhead. And really, it's about that consistency. It's about showing up that I'm caring about more. And if I create very low entry to barrier, then it just becomes very obvious to me that I'll just do it more often. And yeah, Post-it notes are available everywhere. Like, if I had to worry about buying a brand new canvas paper, sketchbook, Bristol paper, then I would absolutely be like constantly in a state of like talking myself out of it. I would be like, like, I don't want to go to Michael's today, or I don't want to go to art store today to get this thing. Like, I just ran out, or I should do this, but I don't have the materials, or do I like want to really set up my easel? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like, set up my my smartphone and pull out my Post-it note and my ballpoint pen, which I have an abundance of. You can buy like a freaking pack of them. Like the Sharpie pencil too, or pen. You can buy like a pack of them for like dozens of dollars, and then you're like good for fucking life, dude. you know. And if your goal is to try to get good at art, then this is OP strats, because there's nothing stopping you. And then if you have something like Procreate or Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint or whatever XYZ software that you really like, as kind of your professional tool, like for me, Procreate's freaking awesome. Infinite Painter is freaking awesome. I know the developer of that software too. He's awesome. I was actually thinking about it lately. I want to try to use it more often. There's just a couple of things that he's currently working on to try to make it even more performative. And I think when that happens, I might just completely switch over. Who knows? But regardless, the spirit of what I'm saying is, like, whatever quote unquote professional tool that you use, absolutely will be okay to kind of transition over, because your overall skills are unmatched. Some of my favorite illustrators, concept artists, designers, most of them come from a world where they are highly skilled draftsmen. Like, they have really good drawing skills. They have really good sense of like how to mark or make a line and make marks really effectively. And I think in this new digital age, a lot of that is lost on concept artists. I see a lot of, oh dude, let me backtrack a little bit actually. I've been seeing a ton of epic, like more traditional painters and artists like on my Instagram because I started like after the whole AI Studio Ghibli stuff, like it actually made me more like, bro, I want to get even harder into the painting and drawing. And um I just started stumbling upon a ton of people who actually do a lot of traditional stuff. I will say that like a lot of it is hit or miss in terms of high skill, but I don't really necessarily get too caught up in high skill either. Like if I see someone who has a really cool idea, but they're like doing something that's um, like kind of like this quality of skill. Like it's not like the most best drawing ever, but it's like a cool idea. Then I'll absolutely follow their work because I like cool ideas too. I'm not really gonna get hamstrung if they only draw well. But then there's like I follow this one painter, and I'm collecting a collage of artists that I want to kind of start sharing their channels and their platforms because I think it's deserved. And yeah, I'm just like, dang, dude, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there's like a lot of people who can do this stuff, and I just gotta look for them, you know? And so, but I think in terms of the concept world, definitely you don't see a lot of people talking about drawing anymore, just being good at drawing. Um, and I could be wrong. Maybe there are a couple here and there that are doing a really good job. Definitely some of the old guard would absolutely be doing this. But some of the newer influencers, it's so funny to say influencers, might not be. And I think that that's a shame. And I'm also included in this, to be honest. Uh, and so I think it's important to recognize that I draw a lot, like both traditionally and digitally. And most people don't see my traditional drawings because they're just not nearly as impressive, in my opinion, as some of my digital stuff. And ironically, like I could draw them way faster and paint them way faster. But I was talking to my friend the other day, especially after like all this AI stuff. I was like, I'm going to soft transition over the next few years to more traditional skills and become really, really good at some more traditional mediums. And so that way I am untouched. I can use whatever tools. And they are just tools. I don't think it'll take me years to acquire some of the skill I've already acquired in digital. I think that those will transfer over pretty effectively. What will take time is just me understanding the tools. And I've been wrong about this before in the positive direction, meaning, let's say I start jumping into gouache and oils. Um, it could probably take weeks, and I might be up to speed, and I might be able to draw and paint the kind of stuff you guys will normally be used to seeing me do digitally. Um, but I like to be more conservative. I like to respect that the medium is the new medium, and it's time to be had to learn more about the tools. And I've already gonna adopt a simple approach too, which is steady to grayscale. I again am not truly interested in getting like a bunch of materials, just have them around. I don't want to do that. Um, but anyway, yeah, it's turned out okay. I like it, and that's supposed to know, so I can just rip it up and then just draw another drawing. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next one.